Welcome back. In the previous video, we explored how HEPGA can help us understand leadership in schools. In this video, we turn our attention to higher education. While there are similarities between school leadership and higher education leadership, post-secondary institutions operate within a different governance environment and face a distinct set of leadership challenges. As this slide illustrates, higher education leaders work within multiple interconnected systems. Unlike many schools, post-secondary institutions must simultaneously respond to governments, funding pressures, students, faculty members, institutional administration, and external partners. Governments influence post-secondary institutions through legislation, accountability requirements, and policy priorities. Funding decisions can shape institutional planning, program development, and strategic priorities. At the same time, higher education leaders must respond to the needs and expectations of students. They must also work with faculty members whose responsibilities often extend across teaching, research, service, and academic governance. Higher education institutions are also complex organizations. Administrative units manage finances, student services, facilities, planning, and a wide range of operational functions that influence institutional decision-making. Beyond the institution itself, post-secondary institutions increasingly engage with external partners, including employers, community organizations, professional bodies, and industry actors. These relationships can create both opportunities and tensions as institutions balance multiple expectations. The key point is that leadership in higher education rarely occurs within a single organizational unit or level. Decisions are often shaped by competing priorities, multiple actors, and interconnected governance structures. This complexity makes higher education an ideal context for applying HEPGA. The framework helps us move beyond simple explanations and examine how different influences interact to shape leadership decisions and institutional outcomes. It's time to pause and reflect. Think about leadership in a university, college, or post-secondary institution that you know. What makes leadership in that context different from leadership in schools? Which actors seem to have the greatest influence on decision making? You can pause the video and discuss. After you've finished, you can continue watching the video. In the previous slide, we explored the complexity of higher education leadership and the many actors that influence universities. The question now becomes, how can we make sense of this complexity? HEPGA provides a useful lens for doing so. As we learned in earlier videos, HEPGA encourages us to examine issues and decisions across multiple levels while also paying attention to culture and informal influences. When applied to higher education, the framework helps us understand how post-secondary leaders navigate competing priorities and expectations. At the macro level, leadership decisions are influenced by government policies, legislation, accountability systems, and broader public expectations. Examples of this can include funding models, performance measures, international student policies, and labor market priorities. At the meso level, leaders work within institutional governance structures. These include boards, senates, strategic plans, institutional policies, and administrative processes that shape how decisions are made within the university. At the micro level, leaders must consider the experiences of faculty members, students, and staff. Teaching, research, learning, and service activities all influence how institutional decisions are interpreted and experienced. HEPGA also reminds us that universities are shaped by culture. Academic values, disciplinary traditions, beliefs about knowledge, and long-standing institutional norms influence how people respond to change and how decisions are evaluated. Finally, shadow governance highlights the role of informal influence. Relationships, networks, committee dynamics, professional reputations, and unwritten expectations often shape decisions in ways that formal governance structures alone cannot explain. This is particularly important in higher education because universities and post-secondary institutions often rely on shared governance and distributed decision-making. As a result, influence is not always exercised through the formal authority alone. One of the key lessons of HEPGA is that every post-secondary institution decision is shaped by multiple influences. Understanding these influences helps leaders move beyond simplistic explanations and better understand why particular decisions succeed, fail, or produce unexpected outcomes. It's time to pause and reflect. Think about your own institution or one you're familiar with. Which of these influences appears to have the greatest impacts on decision making? Government policy, institutional governance, faculty and student interests, academic culture, or informal networks and relationships? You can pause the video and discuss. When you're finished, you can continue watching. Let's now apply HEPGA to a real example from higher education. Work-integrated learning, or WIL, has become a major priority across many post-secondary institutions. At first glance, WIL may appear to be a curriculum decision, a question of whether programs should include internships, practica, co-op placements, or other forms of experiential learning. But HEPGA reveals a much more complex picture. At the macro level, governments increasingly promote WIL as a way to improve graduate employability and strengthen connections between education and labor market needs. At the meso level, institutions respond through strategic plans, resource allocation, performance targets, and program development initiatives. At the micro level, faculty members play a central role. They're responsible for integrating WIL into courses and programs while balancing disciplinary expectations, workload considerations, and educational goals. Students also experience WIL in different ways depending on their backgrounds, programs, and access to opportunities. Culture also matters. Many institutions increasingly operate within an employability culture that emphasizes career readiness, workforce preparation, and labor market outcomes. Finally, informal networks often play an important role. Relationships between faculty members, administrators, employers, and community partners frequently shape how WIL initiatives develop in practice. One of the key findings from my own research on WIL in Alberta is that its expansion cannot be understood as simply a curricular change. It is a leadership and governance issue involving multiple actors, priorities, and competing interests operating across different levels of the educational system. HEPGA helps us see these interactions and understand why the implementation of WIL often varies across institutions, faculties, and programs. It's time to pause and reflect. Think about an initiative in your own educational institution. It could be WIL, online learning, internationalization, artificial intelligence, or another strategic priority. Who influences decisions about that initiative? Which influences are most visible? And which influences may be operating behind the scenes? You can pause the video and discuss with your colleagues.